His plane set to land at Bakersfield any minute now. We've been following it closely since it left Palm Springs.
That's right. The commander-in-chief is traveling with local Congressman and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and other dignitaries. Once they arrive, White House staff says the president plans to speak to the crowd that is gathered inside the hangar there. Local farmers, water managers, ag professionals taking a live look inside right now to address the water issues and to sign a piece of water legislation that has been talked about for quite some time.
Yeah, and you can see there's quite the crowd up on the stage where he is expected to speak. You can see what appeared to be some FFA members, along with what we can assume are prominent farmers here in the area who didn't get close enough to really get a good look. But nearly 1,000 people inside this hangar, the Jayco hangar out at Bakersfield Airport, packed in. They have been waiting all morning. And when I say that, there is no exaggeration. People were showing up at 8 a.m. This was by invitation only, and they were told that you will get your standing position based on first come, first serve. So get there early if you want to get a good spot. So these people were showing up at 8 a.m. so early, in fact, that there was no one there to direct them as to where they were supposed to park. But it's all settled. They're inside, and now we are just waiting on the president and, of course, local Congressman and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy also coming with him.
And touching on that real quick, being that there was no one out there except 23 ABC's Daniela Garrido, who was reporting during our morning show, and they were coming up to her and asking her where they were supposed to go at one point. And the crowd outside is just as big as inside right now. Many people have lined, hundreds of people lining the perimeter of Bakersfield, waiting for the president's arrival. We were told that Air Force One is very close. I believe that was an official determination of where the president's plane is right now. You're looking at our cameras pointing to the southeast right now, waiting for Air Force One to emerge on the horizon and come in for a landing. The president leaving Palm Springs almost 40 minutes ago now, 40 minutes ago. We are told by many aviation enthusiasts in the area that is about what they would guesstimate the flight time to be for a 747 to transverse between those two.
Air Force One.
Oh, you can see it. There it is.
There we are.
It has arrived.
Yeah, it has touched down. The president has arrived in Bakersfield.
Very nice, clean shot of you see it coming on in as we're covered here by a few vehicles. But this means the president is officially on the ground in Kern County. We know that Congressman and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is in Air Force One. He posted about 20 minutes ago a picture of him and his wife Judy inside, saying that the only thing that could be better than riding on Air Force One is doing it with his friend and having his wife with him, of course. And so they have arrived. And as you can tell, a huge security presence around this. We know that there are flight restrictions in the area at this time to make sure that the president is safe. And wow, all of the supporters who have been waiting hours at this yellow tape trying to get a glimpse, getting their moment there, being able to see Air Force One land. Many of those people we were talking to very excited for just the chance to see that.
Now, for what we understand, and there has been no official releases from the White House staff on this. From what we understand, Air Force One will be parked. We'll pull up and park down in the southeast part of the airport, of the field, down by the old hangar that said Bakersfield on it. It's going to be parked in that area. That's where a C-5 is currently, or C-17 is currently on the ground that came in yesterday, delivering support staff and equipment for today's event. It is at that point the president is expected to get into a presidential motorcade down on that end of the airport. They will then take the president from that area and move him up to this hangar, right, that you're looking at, the Jayco hangar, which is right next to the air traffic control tower at Bakersfield. They will move him up to that position where he will then greet others who are standing by for a little meet and greet with the president, and he will go inside then and meet him. Here we go. There is Air Force One. It has landed. It is now turning around and heading back up. Kind of interesting. If I'm looking at this correctly, most of all the flights come in south to north. It appears Air Force One landed north coming to south.
Which could be part of their, as we mentioned, there's high security around this. So they don't want to do anything traditional. They have very specific plans. We've been talking to Secret Service this week. They were very tight-lipped about the procedures that are in place, but say that they are strict, they are secure, they have people watching from many different angles. They have access to surveillance cameras and cameras in the area that other people typically do not have access to. But you can see it is still moving through. You see what appeared to be a law enforcement official passing by as it's moving as well, too.
That looks like it's actually moving into the position right by the old terminal. So just south of the old terminal, just north of the Bakersfield hangar as it pulls into position, getting ready for the president to come off and be greeted by local officials and dignitaries for his visit. And of course, the president visiting Bakersfield, not since 2012 when Barack Obama came through Kern County on his way for a dedication to the Cesar Chavez monument. Was the last president that was in town.
Now, you may remember this is big for President Trump. This is something since he was on the campaign trail in 2016 that he's been talking about: farmers and water. He was in the Central Valley in 2016 up in Fresno, pledging that he will be opening up the water for farmers. He said that it was that he denounced the insane environmental rules meant to ensure that enough fresh water stayed in rivers in the San Francisco Bay to sustain more than a dozen endangered fish and other native species. Now, today, he is expected to ceremoniously sign his administration's reworking of those environmental rules. And that means all of those farmers that are inside who have been waiting now for hours, some of them since 8 a.m. and earlier, to get through all of the screening as we see the stairs moving closer to Air Force One. Now they're going to get to be a part of this ceremonious signing.
And touching on what you were talking about, over the past few years, 23 ABC has done numerous stories involving agriculture and the water crisis, the water that was critical here, including the creation of many water ponds, water reservoirs, to try and recharge the groundwater. To a point, the ground actually sinking because local farmers were being forced to pump so much groundwater out of the ground that it was a major issue. Touching back on the president's legislation, I mean, many people will recognize, if you say the Delta smelt, that has been part of one of the main issues in that environmental battle over sending water from the north to the Central Valley to relieve farmers in this area. In fact, the water supplies had gone up mainly because of some good winter rain runoff in recent years. That has been very good for local farmers, but they need more as far as that goes. So it's going to be interesting to see what comments he makes.
Absolutely.
As you mentioned, this has been sort of one of his projects, along with Kevin McCarthy and other local politicians, to try and put more water, bring more water down here, instead of letting it, because of what was going on up north, that fresh water being basically sent out to sea.
Yes, exactly. Now, and this is something that we've been discussing here at 23 ABC, doing stories on for years. I mean, specifically in 2017, we talked to Valprado Farms, and they mentioned, and this is a common thing that is happening with our farmers. In 2017, they received 100% of the surface water that they paid for, but because of a dry 2018, it led to a reduction in supply. So they were still paying the 100% that they wanted, but only received 20% of the request in 2018. And that's what these farmers have been dealing with, and that's what they've been struggling to keep their farms alive, keep them actually growing crops and getting that food out to not only us in Kern County, but across the nation, because they're struggling to give their crops the water that they need.
And touching a little bit more on what you just said, as far as having to pay that 100% each year, some years, very recently, within the last 8 or 9 years, getting 0% of their allotment, or 5% of their allotment, or just 10%, but still having to pay the 100%. And just a big frustrating time. And then having to turn around and pay more to try and bring in water from other sources.
That's exactly.
As we we're seeing the stairs are now coming up.
And we do know that these stairs were delivered just in the past days. We saw those large planes, these C5s flying in, delivering tons of equipment. The stairs, we saw them pulled off of the C5 as well, and now they're being put to use. They've been stored away for a couple days, but they are ready for the president. We do want to remind you, the president flying this morning. He stayed overnight in Las Vegas, down to Palm Springs. He's here in Bakersfield to have this conversation with farmers here in the Central Valley about the efforts to improve the supply and delivery of water. And then the president will head back to Las Vegas, where tomorrow he'll be speaking for Hope for Prisoners graduation ceremony at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police headquarters. But right now, this is what we've been waiting for. We are in touch with people inside the hangar right now. Some of those farmers who have been waiting by, some of them said that they've been standing in the position that they're in. Some of them that are toward the front that got there early since 10:30 this morning. I'm in contact with them, letting them know that Air Force One is on the ground. They said finally, they're excited. They can't wait. They are ready to see the President of the United States.
Hashtag Yahoo.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. And so we are awaiting it. We know that Congressman Kevin McCarthy has been showing his trip along the way, showing pictures of him inside Air Force One, as I mentioned, along with his wife Judy riding alongside him. We know that Assemblyman Vince Fong will also be in attendance. He confirmed that with 23 ABC yesterday. But as we mentioned, this is just something that the president has been working toward. As we mentioned, when he was a presidential candidate, he made this promise, and it looks like today he will be starting to try to deliver on that promise that he made.
Now, we do have 23 ABC reporters on scene right now. Bayan Wang is standing by outside right now, outside the hangar. He's right at this position, actually, as we are waiting the shot for the president to emerge from Air Force One inside the hangar. Also, we have Austin Westfall, who will be bringing some comments as the president comes in, and we will be carrying his entire speech live when it happens. Right now, let's go to 23 ABC's Bayan Wang, who's standing by live right next to this camera shot with many supporters of the president who have been waiting many hours to see him.
Yeah, Mike and Jessica, I got to tell you, when that plane was flying overhead here, they thought that the visibility of Air Force One was going to be on the other side of this building, so it was a stampede out here. It was back and forth and back, and nothing but cheers and excitement. People bringing their families out here. Of course, over 1,000 people inside the hangar expecting the president to step in any moment here, but now over 50 or 60 people getting the vantage point that is probably the best vantage point right now outside of the Bakersfield Airport. I'm over here. What do you think? We saw the plane land here. What is this moment like for you?
It's pretty special. It'll be the first time that we see Trump here in Bakersfield. He's here for a good reason. We definitely need water for our farmers. Without water, we don't eat.
Explain just how you were feeling when you saw Air Force One coming through the skyline there.
That was pretty neat to see him fly into Bakersfield.
Moment of a lifetime there. And Crystal, you were telling me earlier just how exciting this is. Now the plane has landed. How do you feel?
Oh my God, I got such goosebumps. It hurts so bad. Like, it's just like, it's extraordinary. It's breathtaking. It really is. Like, yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I see the goosebumps on your arm over here.
Oh man, I kind of want to cry. It's so exciting. It really is. It really is.
And describe the atmosphere when you guys were walking back and forth. Did you think one of you guys were going to get trampled?
No, I mean, it was like, it's like seriously a celebrity. Like my son was even running faster than anybody else, like trying to find the next glimpse, you know. So it was, it was, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, no, certainly. I think a lot of people out here, Mike and Jess, are going to need neck braces, because every time we heard something over the sky, it was left and right and left and right. Now we're standing by here in front of Air Force One. Actually, we're several hundred yards away, but still have a very good vantage point, awaiting President Trump to step out of the doorway onto the staircase any moment here. As we see that, we'll bring the shot back up. We're going to send it back to you guys for now.
Real good one.
Yeah. All right, Bayan, thank you for that. Something that they didn't mention in that, we could see it behind the scenes here, but you couldn't see it at home, is that the initial spot where we saw Air Force One land, they were all waiting there. They saw it land, and then they all took off running to get a better vantage point. Our camera crew as well, Bayan Wang, and our photographer, Tarek Dugas, also out there running alongside them to get the best view possible of Air Force One, and now they're waiting to watch the president come off of Air Force One. Another quick look inside as we see everybody inside waiting as well, trying to... And
there you go. Now we've got a camera right there on the tarmac waiting for the president to emerge from the door. Perhaps this is why he has not emerged yet.
He was waiting for the perfect shot. Well, I mean, he wants to make sure that he says hello properly as soon as he arrives into Kern County. This is a moment that he's been working toward, as we've been mentioning, since 2016. This has been on his agenda to get water flowing for farmers. So this is his time to kind of make this big, momentous action happen. So,
yeah, not everyone, though, is here in support of President Trump. We've got 23 ABC's Tori Cooper she is at the property. She is standing by with protesters who have also assembled outside Meadows Field in anticipation of the president's visit. Tori?
Yes, Mike, it's a very emotionally charged scene here along Airport Drive, and yes, it's a very emotional scene here along Airport Drive and West Day Avenue. As you can see behind me, there are protesters who have been lining the streets, but there's also supporters who have been voicing their support for President Donald Trump as he has been making his way towards Kern County. Now, as you just witnessed, he made his way here, and I have been joined here live with a member from the Bakersfield Young Democrats. And so, Martin, tell us a little bit about how this is really making you feel. What are you out here protesting right now?
We're protesting Donald Trump's visit to Bakersfield. His hate, his racism, his bigotry, none of it is welcomed here in Bakersfield or in the Golden State of California.
Okay, and so I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Some people who may be watching maybe say, you're protesting and saying, he's not welcome here. So do you think that, what would you say to people who say maybe you are bringing the message of, someone's not welcome here as well?
Yeah, well, that's simply a logical fallacy. You cannot be intolerant of intolerance. Donald Trump represents racism, bigotry, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia. We reject all of it.
Okay, so obviously some people have been voicing their emotion here, but some have also been showing their emotion here. So tell me, have you come in contact with any of the supporters just within the last hour as the president has really been making his way here to Kern County?
Yeah, just in the last hour, protesters here protesting the hate Donald Trump represents have been attacked by his supporters. They threw water on us. They've been flipping us off. They've been verbally assaulting us all day.
Okay, and so is there anything, if you had a chance right now to get a message across to the commander-in-chief, what would you really want him to know? One thing.
Donald Trump, your hate is not welcome here. Get out of Kern County. Get out of California.
Okay, so obviously this is, again, a very emotionally charged scene here. This corner is filled with people on both sides of this argument. We're going to be continuing to follow what's really transpiring out here. We have been seeing a lot take place here, and hopefully it remains peaceful, but make sure you keep an eye on all of our social media platforms throughout the day and our newscast tonight. We're going to be sharing more about what's really taking place out here on Airport Drive in Oildale. But for now, I'm going to send it back to you. They are chanting, "Hey, hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump has got to go." But I'm going to leave it here for now on the side over here with the protesters on Airport Drive. Back to you, Jessica and Mike.
Trump has got to go.
All right, Tori, thank you for that. We are once again taking this live picture just below the steps of Air Force One as we wait for the president and members of his entourage to emerge from the aircraft, landing just about 15 minutes ago at Meadows Field. President on a very tight timetable. He was expected to get in just after 2 o'clock. There's some reports that said he was going to arrive before 2 o'clock with a departure just after 3 o'clock. Now it's 2:42 basically, and the president still has not made it inside. It'll probably be another 15 minutes once he leaves the plane to get inside and begin making his remarks.
That's absolutely right. So we're going to keep an eye on this as we await his arrival coming out of Air Force One. This is where the anticipation builds. We know he's here. We know he's on the ground. We know that he's about to come out and he's about to speak. This is something that we've been waiting for since last week when we learned that he was actually going to be coming to Kern County and he was going to be landing right here in Bakersfield. The anticipation has been building, chatter among the community also building, those in support and those against, both talking about this for the last week or so, talking about the anticipation, whether you support him or you are against him. This was a big deal across our community.
And a lot having been happening nationally as well, with the Democratic presidential race going on right now and all the candidates in that race coming up to their big moment for another debate straight ahead. All of them launching attacks on the president and each other during this, real start to the campaign season right now. I keep waiting to see. Every time they move, I keep thinking they're getting into better position to see the president come up. Here we go.
Oh, we can see somebody is coming up here momentarily. We can see two shots. You can't see it at this moment on your screens, but we can see. Yes. So we are expecting people to start arriving. See, as you can see, there we are on the right side. There is the president of the United States giving a wave and a couple fist pumps there as he heads off. Of course, local congressman and and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and his wife Judy also behind him. Looks like it got cut off there just a bit. Can't see who's behind them, but as they make their way down the stairs and officially putting their feet onto Bakersfield City ground right here in Kern County as we are preparing for him to give his speech here in Kern County, talking to farmers about this issue of water, and something that has been highly talked about as we can see our cameras are getting ready to move to get inside too. We of course are continuing to follow this. As you can see, the left hand side, there's the wide shot of our crews on the ground showing Air Force One that they just got off of. Sorry for the shakiness. There we go. That's a much more steady shot.
What you're looking at right now, the media vans.
Yes.
We call them the chase vehicles.
So what they're doing is they're moving into place to get inside so that way they can also have a full stream when the president starts speaking. We, of course, have our cameras set up inside at this hour as well. We do have one of our reporters on the ground in there who will be joining us live here as we continue to track the president's movements. And again, a short distance away from where Air Force One just landed to where he is going to the Jayco hangar. This is just across Bakersfield Airport.
Yeah, it is not a far drive at all. Maybe about 4 or 5 minutes right now. Can we go back inside? Can we go back inside Jayco hangar to see the very latest? Because I'm curious if the people inside now know that the president is off the plane and starting to make his way there. As Jess mentioned, we do have Austin Westfall. He is standing by live inside the hangar. And first thing I need to ask you, Austin, is the crowd aware that the president's now off the plane and making his way that direction?
Guys, the message blared over the loudspeaker just minutes ago was Air Force One, wheels down. There was wide applause after that was said over the speakers here. As you can see behind me, there are hundreds, nearly 1,000 people here at Jayco hangar here at Bakersfield. You say it's going to be roughly 5 or 6 minutes away. All the people in here are eagerly awaiting their president to come in here. Most people here are fans of President Trump. This crowd was handpicked. It was invite only from the White House. Obviously, as you guys have been talking about, local representative Kevin McCarthy, House Minority Leader, he's going to be joining Trump here on stage. There is a podium set up where Trump is expected to give some remarks, and then a desk that he's going to sit at where he will sign some documentation that will essentially enable less restrictions as far as some of the water issues that farmers have been facing here in the Central Valley. McCarthy tweeted a picture of him on Air Force One just about an hour ago as they were taking off from Palm Springs. McCarthy appeared on Fox News just a couple of days ago championing Trump for the work that he says President Trump has done to assure that water for our farm workers and our food supply has been great. Trump saying at a press conference last night that he's pretty certain that McCarthy will be the next Speaker of the House. As you guys can tell, quite the kinship has developed between McCarthy and Trump. Again, President Trump first arrived in Los Angeles yesterday, where he attended a briefing on the 2028 Olympics and a fundraiser in Beverly Hills. On Twitter, he's been talking about immigration issues regarding LA Mayor Eric Garcetti. He's been taking a lot of aim at presidential hopeful Mike Bloomberg as of late, because he's been soaring in the polls as of late. We don't know exactly if Trump is going to veer off script at this talk later today. We don't know how long he's going to be speaking for. We don't know even exactly when he's going to arrive. All we know is that he's nearby in this packed crowd here at the hangar. It's going to be very excited to see him. But for now, I'm going to send it back to you guys, Mike and Jess.
Thank you, and we'll be coming back to Austin in just a little bit. We're being told that the president and Congressman McCarthy and all the other dignitaries are in the motorcade right now. They are making their way over to the hangar. We're expecting him to come inside at any minute, and it's going to be interesting, and I hope that we can just pot the audio up and listen to the applause as he emerges from the back of the hangar.
And we can only imagine that it is going to erupt. Not only were these people hand-selected to be there, but these are the farmers in this county that have been struggling for water, and they know that the president is here to talk about water, to get them access to water. So not only has the anticipation been building over the last week, it's been building all this morning up until this moment. These people waiting for hours inside this hangar, standing up, holding their position, waiting to see the president walk in and give this speech. As we've mentioned, he is expected to ceremoniously sign his administration's reworking of environmental rules that has to do with the Sacramento Delta, of course, that is delivering water down here. Some of those farmers paying 100% of what they need for water, but only receiving at certain times less than 20%, less than 10%, 5%, sometimes none. So
during the drought years.
During the drought years, it's been a struggle for a lot of farmers. So this has been anticipation building for not only hours, days, weeks, years that these farmers have been waiting for him to deliver on getting them more water.
You know, the thing about it is, especially when it comes to the water issue here, that has been the rallying cry of many politicians for decades. To try and address what's been going on. Recent legislation up in Sacramento has pushed forward new ideas and money as far as repairing aging water infrastructure. All these different plans to try and help shore up what has been just a monumental problem for the state when it comes to water. But one of the biggest things is just getting it here. It's just getting it down to the Central Valley and being able to do it with any type of bipartisan support. And that's been the one thing that's been severely lacking. So it will be very interesting to watch the president and hear what he has to say about that, and then go ahead and sign this legislation.
That's right. And some of the people who are against any changes to it too quickly, they're sourcing, of course, the fish. The environmental advocates say opening more water in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta will endanger salmon, threaten steelhead fish, green sturgeon, which they will say will then endanger killer whales who depend on salmon for food. So that's been part of the reason they've had to slow down that flow to stop the fish from being killed, and that ends up sending the water out into the ocean, which for farmers has been frustrating. But for those who are environmentalists who are protecting the fish, they are the ones who are waiting to see what is actually going to happen and give their response on it. We know that some people are already speaking out in anticipation that the president is going to make changes today.
Now, I don't know if you just caught that, for those of you watching at home, a gentleman coming out of the back right there, obviously not the president, cannot tell who that is, perhaps a member of his support staff, came down carrying a binder perhaps that it contained the president's remarks that he was taking to the podium. So as we mentioned, Air Force One touching down just about 15-20 minutes ago. The president we're being told he is in the building.
A very quick trip, as we mentioned, just across the lot, really.
So it's this is expected to not be a very long meet and greet, and not a very long visit here with the 1,000 people in attendance. It's going to be a quick trip, and the president has to continue on his trip. I believe we've heard two different versions. We know he's going to end up in Vegas tonight,
yes, but
there is a report that he could be going to Phoenix.
Yes,
leaving here.
There's a rally in Phoenix.
At Veterans Memorial Coliseum, the old Coliseum.
Yes,
there's where he's hosting that event in Phoenix to talk to rally his supporters. Which is kind of an odd choice. You'd think it would be at one of the newer arenas. I mean, Veterans Coliseum has been there for 50, 60 years.
Maybe it's the history behind it.
Well, perhaps that, or it's on the old fairgrounds too. So if he's going along this whole agriculture sort of a theme, that could be a reason for that as well.
And we are seeing movement in the front, and that appears to be the press pool that we saw running when we saw the bouncing camera. So that means that they are there as well, getting in position, waiting for the president's arrival, as many people's cell phones are going up.
I was about to say, we don't really need the press pool. We have all these cell phones right now.
Their cameras are ready. They are prepared. They've been waiting for this moment for hours. As I mentioned, I was speaking to one person via text who is inside, saying he's been standing there since 10:30 this morning in that same spot. He's got a great position. If you're looking at the stage, he's on the left side of the stage. He's only about 2 people in from the barricade, though, so he's got a great position to see and hear President Trump.
I was about to say, if you're going to tell me he's in a green hat or something and look right there, I would be very, very impressed with that.
Yes.
All right, so President Trump waiting to emerge in mere moments. I don't know if they're trying to cue up a certain song.
You never know.
Does he have an entrance song?
He very well could. He may have specially selected here for Kern County. We'll have to wait and see. But as you can tell, people started noticing inside that the press pool is there. The press pool is in position to get the shot of the president walking in and moving over to the podium. So everybody has their cameras ready, waiting for the moment to see the president walk in. Again, this has been a big moment for farmers that they've been waiting on. They're anticipating hearing what he has to say, and watch this ceremonious signature that is expected to happen here momentarily. Of course, protesters, supporters, people who are waiting outside who were not one of those ones who received an invitation inside have also been waiting for hours. They were able to see Air Force One land. They were able to see the president walk off of Air Force One and travel in his motorcade over to the Jayco hangar now. And these people inside are now going to get to see the moment where the president comes out to talk.
An historic moment, because who knows when the next visit will come. It's been 8 years since the last, and we are now waiting for the president to emerge, and we will carry those remarks in their entirety once he comes out of the back. Several different people, a friend of mine who is also in the farming community, one of the longest family-run operations, 5 generations here in the Central Valley, has been struggling as of late with many crops they've had to adjust. They told me they weren't really hampered by the tariff war between the U.S. and China, ironically enough. But the one issue they continue to talk about nonstop has been the water and water delivery and the need to recharge and get more water to continue doing what they're doing for 6, 7, or 8, however many more generations they want to go. So we are still waiting. Many of those in attendance, local dignitaries, others who received that golden ticket, if you will, that special invitation. We know that there are many members of the various, we know Garces, FFA, BHS, FFA students, just 2 of the ones that are on hand for this historic walk in here any moment.
We're just waiting for him to arrive. But again, this has been big because, as we've been mentioning, farmers, as you just mentioned, one of your friends who's been in the farming business for years, they've been desperate because this has turned into really a water crisis as we are going through the drought. They are not getting the water from the areas that they need because of drought conditions. And because of that, they're having to use wells, they're having to use groundwater. And then there are fears of that those underwater systems could collapse because or completely dry them out and then once that happens, there's another problem on our hands. So this is something that they've been having to deal with, and not to mention, as we mentioned, paying the fee for it every year, 100%, paying their full 100%, but only getting a fraction of that back in what they need. Just really scratching by lately. So it'll be interesting to hear what the president has to say about the changes he's making. It'll also be interesting to hear what the environmental advocates are saying about the changes he makes, and whether or not this will actually help farmers, what they say as soon as they hear what the president has to say today.
And it can be misleading. In the good years that we've had 2 fairly good, or as many put it, great years of water in our mountains and good water delivery. People see water running through the Kern River almost the entire year. I think it's very misleading. If people see this and they think, oh, everything is going to be okay. And one thing that even our own chief meteorologist, Elena Rusk, has alluded to time and time again, when it comes to the water in our area, you need perhaps 10 to 15 years of constant rain and water collection like that in order to make a difference. All right.
U.S. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
Here comes Kevin McCarthy, and we believe the president, an announcement just made over the loudspeaker there as cameras go up, and as we zoom in, we should be able to get a better look here at who's walking in at this moment. And that appears to be Kevin McCarthy there at the end. It looks like he may be addressing the crowd first. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Hello. What an amazing crowd for 24-hour notice, huh? We want to make sure that our president understands that all of California is not alike. Isn't it great to have a president who understands farming is not easy? And isn't it great to have a president who keeps his promises? This president has kept so many promises, he likes to tell me he kept more than he even made. You know, we've been traveling quite a bit. With every obstacle they try to put against him, no one has been as successful as President Trump. When I look across this audience, I see all sorts of faces, all sorts of color of skin. And you know what? We're all one American. And we have never been stronger because this president puts America first. And we know this country was built with farmers. And we know we need a security in our food. And we know we need a Washington that works for us and not the other way around. So join me in giving the biggest welcome we can to the individual who's brought America back and is going to keep America great, our President, Donald J. Trump. Hi, Chloe. Hi, Chloe. Well, I want to thank you, and before we begin, I want to just say that, Juger, thank you very much. It's a great place. You have great people on the stage with me. I want to tell you, warriors, fighters, and they love the country. They love our country. I want to just start, though, by saying 2 brave firemen, as you know, died last night in Porterville, and we just want to pay our respects to them. I heard there were 2 great people with incredible families, and I just want to pay my respects to their families and friends. That's a tough job. We just met some of the firemen backstage. It's a tough and dangerous job, and the country respects that profession very much. We just want you to all know that. They really respect you a lot. And you can add the words law enforcement to that group. Nobody respected more than those groups of people. I can tell you that. So thank you very much. Thank you very much to the families. Thank you very much. And we're doing well with you. Thank you. We just had a poll that says we're doing very well. Thank you. That's great. Appreciate it. We love you too. And I want to thank Kevin and hello to Bakersfield. I've heard a lot about Bakersfield. Didn't you have a great tennis player years ago named Dennis Ralston, right? Right? He was a great player. He's really great. Is he still around, I hope? Is he? I don't know. Somebody will let me know, but he was a great player. I'm thrilled to be here today as we take historic action on behalf of our incredible farmers and ranchers, growers, and communities throughout the Central Valley and all across the great state of California. What they're doing to your state is a disgrace. After decades of failure and delays in ensuring critical water access for the people of the state, we are determined to finally get your problem solved. The state's not doing anything to help, but hopefully they will eventually come along. Now that they're rationing water for people, they're saying you're going to get, very shortly, I heard the governor saying, you get 50 gallons. 50 gallons sounds okay. People tell me it's like nothing. By the time you do with your showers and your hands and your dishes and everything, 50 gallons is very, very little. Can you imagine a state being rationed when you have millions and millions and millions of gallons being poured out into the Pacific Ocean that you could have, and you'd have more water than you knew what to do with it? So we're honored to be joined by a warrior, a real warrior, named Devin Nunes. And Elizabeth, thank you, because you have to put up with it, Elizabeth, wherever you may be. But Mrs. Nunes is here, and she's a fantastic woman. But Devin has been from day one, from the day I met him. And, you know, this all started because I was driving up, what was the highway, Devin, that we were driving by? 99. Does everyone know 99? And I kept saying, Devin, why are these fields all brown and they look like desert? They look like they were starved. It's too bad you have a drought. And then I'd see little patches of the most beautiful land I've ever seen. And then I'd go to the next and I'd see acres and acres of brown, really dry, horrible looking stuff. And then I'd see a patch of the most beautiful farmland I've ever seen. I said, what's going on? It's too bad you have a drought. He said, no, we don't have a drought. They won't allow us to have water in the state of California. That's how this all started. Believe it or not, that's how I really got to know Devin Nunes. Then he became a hero because he found out what was going on in government, and he found out about the hoax and the witch hunt and all of the horrible things that have gone on. But we really got over the fact that I said, boy, that's a beautiful area, but why is everything else barren? And it's because of water. You send millions and millions of gallons out, and we have now given full permission that you don't do that anymore. We have given, and the hard permits were, by the way, the federal permits. The state could do this with a flick of the governor's hand, and we hope that he's going to do it because it makes so much sense. But I want to thank Devin for being an incredible warrior, and likewise, Kevin McCarthy. can say, I mean, we have to work hard. We can pick up 7 seats in the state of California. And I want to thank, he said, get rid of policy. That's okay with me. A lot of people agree. Look what's happened to San Francisco. So sad what's happened when you see a slum where it's a slum. It's worse than a slum. There's no slum like that. What they've done to San Francisco is a crying shame. And it's something that we're going to do something about, because if they don't fix it up, clean it up, take care of the homeless, do what they have to do, but clean up their city, the federal government's going to have to step in. We're going to do it in Los Angeles and San Francisco. And I want to thank Judy, because she has to put up with these long hours that he works. Where is Judy? Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you both. What you have to put up with long hours. But you know, the people appreciate it. They really appreciate it, because there's nobody doing a better job than these guys. And you also have somebody here who's another warrior. He's a warrior in the waiting. He's been successful all his life, and he's running for the 21st Congressional District, David Valadao. He's an incredible guy, and I think I'm hearing you're doing great, but always pretend you're about 1 point down. But you're not going to have to worry about it. He's going to be fantastic. We really need him badly in Washington, so hopefully you'll be set. Good luck, David. And where is Mark Wayne? Mark Wayne Mullen. Come on up, Mark. Come on up. And his son, Jim, who's a great wrestler, who's a great athlete. Mark Wayne, thank you very much. Yeah, the wall is being built. You know, we're up to 122 miles. And you think that money, that was not easy. But we got the money, and we're building it, and we won a lot of cases in court. We were sued all the way along the line. And we're up to 122 miles. In a very short time, we'll be over 500 miles. It's already had a tremendous impact. So the wall is moving along. But I want to thank you, and Jim, thank you very much. Stay up here, okay? Because I'm going to be signing a very important piece of legislation that is going to give you a lot of water and a lot of dam and a lot of everything, and you'll be able to farm the land, and you'll be able to do things that you never thought possible. And it is true, though, I think, Devin, you could say, I really, look, I'll never forget. It's so bad. I said, gee, it's so bad. I never knew the drought was so bad. He looked at me like, what are you talking about? There's no drought. We have so much water, we don't know what to do with it. And this would take care of Los Angeles. It would take care of everything. You'd have more water than you knew what to do. You wouldn't have to be rationing water. And it's just absolutely insane. So hopefully the governor will get his act together and you'll get this done. I also want to thank, we have many state and local officials with us, including a lot of the law enforcement, the firemen, men and women, and we appreciate it all very much. Thank you. A man who has been great is David Bernhardt, and he's working with you. But I have to say that I've been watching another warrior, Tom McClintock, and I'd call Devin, I'd see him on television. There's nobody that represented us during the impeachment hoax. There's nobody that represented us better. I said, that guy could represent me any day. He was tough and strong. That face was good looking, I have to say. In the Me Too generation, we don't talk about looks anymore, but he's a good looking guy. Where's Tom? Tom McClintock, come here. He was fantastic.
But we do. We have some great fighters. And with us today is Secretary David Bernhardt, very important man in terms of what we're talking about. And David's leadership has been incredible in this subject. You know, we're talking about something that will change this whole area. Actually change, if you think about it, Kevin's going to change the whole state if we can do this. And it's an easy word, but it's a very complicated word when you think of it. It's called water. We need water in the state, and you have so much water you don't know what to do with it, and this is the man that's going to help us. So David Bernhardt, Secretary of the Interior, please say a few words.
Good afternoon. It should be obvious to everyone in government and to the American people that when President Trump gives clear direction, he expects us to hit our target. And in the fall of 2018, the President directed the Secretaries of Interior and Commerce to address the challenges facing the folks in the Valley and throughout the West relating to water operations. And to do that, we assembled a wonderful team, including Commissioner Brenda Berman, first female commissioner of the Bureau of Reclamation, Aurelia Skipwith, the first African-American female director of the Fish and Wildlife Service, and led by Paul Souza, a career SES executive. We have come up with a plan changing our operations to use real-time monitoring, better technology, and provide more efficient utilization of water so it won't be wasted. And that is just the beginning. And it's because of this congressional delegation bringing this to the attention of the President, and the President saying, let's get it done.
Come on up, David. Come on up. You're going to be a congressman soon, so let's get him up here. Come on, David. Thank you very much. So as a candidate for president, I promised to help solve the water crisis that was crippling our farmers due to the chronic mismanagement and misguided policies. And that's what it is, misguided policies and management. For too long, authorities have needlessly flushed millions and millions of gallons of fresh, beautiful, clean water from up north straight into the Pacific Ocean. It's nothing for the Pacific Ocean. You know what it means? Like nothing. We're talking about the Pacific. I think they think we're helping the Pacific. It's like a drop. It's like a drop. But it can help us to a level that nobody can believe. On the basis of old science, obsolete studies, and overbearing regulations that had not been updated in many, many years, and sometimes for decades. The resulting miscalculation and misallocation of water helped turn natural droughts into man-made catastrophes. I mean, it's really a catastrophe when you think you have farmers that own land, that are paying taxes on the land, that aren't allowed to farm your land. They're actually taking away your land. When you think about it. And that's the state, because the federal government, we've done our part. That was supposed to be the hard part. We got it done fast. Commerce worked fantastically with you, David. I know that, right? We got it done fast. To confront this problem, in 2018, I ordered the administration to update the outdated scientific research and biological opinions that help to determine water allocation right here in the state of California. In other words, how much water is available for agricultural producers, communities, for all of the people that live in your great state. Well, a lot of people speak badly of your state. I love your state. I understand your state. You have the potential like no place else, but you need the right government. You need the right There's so much. You know, I was explaining on the way in, cars. You could build a car for $3,500 less. It would take a tiny bit more, just a glass of fuel more. But that will take many cars off the road because people would be able to buy many cars that are obsolete, that are what they call gas guzzlers. The new car would be safer because it would not be made out of paper mache, because it would be allowed to be a little bit heavier. would be a little stronger, it would be safer, it would cost you $3,500 less, and because of your rules and regulations in California, we'll end up in a court case with you, Governor. It's so crazy. We're already in a court case over a train. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. It was originally supposed to go from San Francisco to LA. That didn't work out, so now they did this in order to get the cost down. It keeps getting, pretty soon it'll be like a mile long. It's very sad when you see some of the things, but think about the car situation. In other words, you get a less expensive car by $3,500 on average that will be safer, that will look better, and that will work better. And you get a lot of gas guzzlers off the market because people are going to be able to afford, and they're going to want this car because it's a better car. And we're going to have to fight it out in court, but we'll win. We always win. Today I'm pleased to announce that this update is complete. We've done the full, complete update on water and water allocation. A major obstacle to providing more water for the region's farmers has now been totally eliminated by the federal government. I mean, the federal government is very tough to deal with. We got it done very quickly. And at the request of Devin and Kevin, and it works out well, Devin and Kevin. But they're very similar people. They're tough, thank you. But we got it done, and we got it done fast. And you also worked with some of the other congressmen and women. We had a lot of help from a lot of the women that worked with us, and I'll tell you, we're very proud of the job we did. Now we can do it very quickly if we can get the state to move. And you can take away the water allocation for people, the 50-gallon going down to 42, 43-gallon, throw it out the window. You don't have to worry about it anymore. What a difference that would be, right? Going forward, we'll use the latest science and most advanced technology to monitor and adjust water distribution in real time, ensuring that the environment remains protected while directing as much water as possible, which will be a magnificent amount, a massive amount of water for the use of California farmers and ranchers and all of these communities that are suffering from a lack of water. You can't water your grass. We don't have the water. And yet you look and you see the millions and millions of gallons being just wasted and poured into the great ocean. We want to make sure that you get the water that you really are paying for by being citizens and paying taxes and all of the things that you do. You deserve water, and you have the water. There are communities that don't have water. You have the water. This is an easy one. Here with us today is Jenny Holderman, a fourth-generation almond farmer from right here in Kern County. Jenny, please come up and say a few words. Jenny? Come on up, Jenny.
Thank you, President Trump. I'm proud to be a fourth-generation California farmer, married to a fellow fourth-generation California farmer. I was raised by strong parents who showed me the farming lifestyle, taught me the importance of conserving our resources and the necessity of water to grow our food. Today, it is not uncommon to find 3 generations on our family farm daily. However, because of the uncertainty of water deliveries, I'm worried that we may not have a family farm to pass down to my children, my niece or nephew. As an almond farmer, we can't just fallow acres in years with less water. Orchards require consistent irrigation, and without a reliable water supply, hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland could be taken out of production of California's Central Valley. Families like mine could be forced to abandon orchards or sell a family farm. We are an industry of families, and we do not farm the same way that generations before us did. Using new science and technology, almond farmers today use 33% less water than they did 20 years ago. Our water infrastructure should be handled the same way, using updated science and new infrastructure to keep water flowing to families and family farms across our state. I want to thank our president for cutting regulations and supporting the American farmer. President Trump is fighting for farmers with our best interests interest in mind, and he was working to bring water back to the Central Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And you know, Jenny reminded me of something. So, as you know, for businesses, small businesses, and farms, and some small farms, all small farms, we got rid of the estate tax, or the death tax, as they call it. So now, all signed, all done, part of our tax cuts. So now, if you love your children, and there are some people that don't, and if you don't love your children, this doesn't matter so much. Don't listen. But if you love your children, it's nice that they don't have to mortgage the farm, is the expression. You know the words mortgage. They're going to mortgage the farm, and then they're going to lose the farm. So if you love your children, you have no estate tax to pay, you have no death tax to pay. So you can look down at your children and say they're doing a nice job or they're doing a lousy job, and at least they won't be having to go out to the banks and mortgage the farm. Very well-known term, because it never worked out too well. So you have no more estate tax to pay on your farm, on your leadership. That's a big point. It doesn't pertain to water, but probably it does, right? Because the farm's going to be a lot more valuable if we can pull this off. A lot more valuable, and if we do, it's because of the people right here. Also joining us is Matt Fisher, a local citrus farmer. Matt, please come up. Matt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I vividly recall the day that you were elected. That day gave my family and I such a tremendous feeling of hope and optimism about our future in agriculture. Farming here in the state of California isn't the easiest, and every day since you've been in office, you've done exactly what you promised. You came to California and sought to understand our water issues. You listened to the right people, put a plan in place, selected the right people, assigned a deadline, and got it done. These biological opinions and the balance that they will bring to the water that falls on this state will bring certainty not only to my family and our employees, but several other families that farm here in the state of California. They are based on sound science and will help the Bureau of Reclamation maximize water to not only family farms, but rural communities and the environment. Your leadership on updating these biological opinions will bring significant relief to my family and will save literally thousands upon thousands of acres of citrus from being left to die. So thank you again, sir, for keeping your word and following through to help us here in the San Joaquin Valley.
Thank you, Matt. And you have to know that this meeting, Kevin was just saying, was set up long before Devin and Kevin set it up, long before we heard that Mini Mike hates the farmer. Long before we learned about his hatred of the farmer, disrespect of the farmer. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to be the candidate anyway, to be honest with you. We'll have to start working on Crazy Bernie pretty soon. But it was set up a long time before that. We just found this out about 2 days ago. On top of regulatory failures, California has not built any major water storage infrastructure since 1979, even as the state's population has increased by nearly 70%. Think of that. In the past decade, the cost of water increased by 127% in San Francisco alone, and over 70% in Los Angeles. And you can't even get it. Hundreds of thousands of acres of once beautiful green farmland became bone dry. In our reforms, and what we've done is, in place of 1 year ago, actually, we estimated that our farmers would have received enough water to support up to 850,000 additional acres of crops. Think of that. That's a lot of acres, and over 130,000 minimum, over 130,000 jobs. With today's actions, we will help bring farmland back to life. All of the land that I talked about before will be green and beautiful. You know, they say that this part of the world has among the best land in the world to farm. I've heard it from a lot of people. And it's a massive amount, we don't talk, it's a massive amount of money, but it's got, and you see that in those little patches. You say, wow, but it needs water. Larry Starr is another farmer who will benefit by today's actions. Larry, please come up and share with us your story. Please, Larry.
Wow. Thank you. What a great honor this is to have you in our home, Mr. President. So water for us is everything. Water is the beginning, it's the middle, and the end. Without it, without water, we have nothing. It's just the end. I farmed with my brother Fred and my brother-in-law Jay Croker, and until recently my father Fred Starr Sr. My sons, nephews, nieces are involved as well, and like everyone, water is the most critical part of our existence. It is in fact our lifeblood. And like blood, how it is treated, maintained, and pumped is the single most important factor in our existence. Our farm has been forced to idle thousands of producing acres due to the uncertainty of our lifeblood. Reduced water allocations year after year due to environmental takings, old science, questionable management, and increased regulations. We pay for water we don't get. Still, we see more water taken out of the system. We see more ground being idled. I can tell you that what the end looks like, and come out to my ranch and I'll show you what it looks like. We have considered selling the farm. Prior to the last presidential election, in fact, even my dad, who lived and breathed our farm, seriously contemplated selling out. We thought at the time if President Trump's opponent had won, we would sell for sure. However, that did not happen. And you were elected, Mr. President. And after that, if we even mentioned selling, my dad would go ballistic. He would say, not now. He said President Trump is going to get things done. He said he's our hope. And it's a fact, Mr. President, you have got things done, and you have indeed revived our hope. I heard you saying to Larry 4 years ago, the California water situation is ridiculous, and you said there will be water. There will be plenty of it. We can turn it around. I have that on my phone still. That is a promise made and a promise kept. I know that we have had water warriors fighting for us for a long time, working hard for us, fighting for these new regulations that are based on best science, using real-time conditions in the Delta, maximizing Delta water exports while protecting threatened or endangered species in the Delta and protecting the environment. That is a win-win, right? Congressman McCarthy, I just want to thank you for your leadership and your friendship. And Congressman Nunes, same thing, and I know David was involved earlier, and Congressman McClintock. We just, these people were working on this before, and they were working, and I want to mention also Ernest Conant and Paul Souza, who were intricately involved with making these changes, but they have been working on this issue for a long time, and they were looking for traction. They were looking for some kind of change. And I can tell you, traction was found in 2016 when President Donald Trump was elected. People have said to me, no, he's not why. It's timing. It's dumb luck. It's blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, I'm no expert, and I know a certain Democratic presidential candidate who says farmers need more gray matter. You know that, yeah. But this ain't rocket science. The reason we're seeing these new rules implemented are because of President Donald Trump. And I want to publicly thank you, sir, and ask you to please keep fighting for us. Thank you.
Running for politics one of these days. You could do a job. All of you, thank you very much. That was fantastic. But it's so easy. It's common sense. You know, Larry just said it's common sense. And it is common sense. And all we need is a governor, and we can be nice to him. We can be rough with him. We can do whatever we have to do. I'd love to be nice to him. It's all common sense. Remember I said forest management? You don't need all these forest fires. It's management. I said forest management. It's the same thing here. This is even easier. This is even easier. Just have the valve go in a little different direction, okay? This one's easy. I can't imagine why they wouldn't do it. Someday you'll explain to me politically why that's good, that you're rationing water when you have so much water. And it is. It's different if you had a drought. You don't have a drought. You have tremendous amounts of water. So maybe we can get the governor to come along and really be friendly on this one and get it done. Huge numbers, too. Forgetting about human lives, forgetting about businesses. This is tremendous amounts of money coming to the state, coming to the farmers. Your farmers would be doing much more business. Somebody said it would be the largest farm area anywhere in the world if we allowed you to have the water to irrigate and to give you a little. You need the water. You need water. It's really simple. And you have the water. You just need a signature. You're going to have one today. And that was the tough one. Right, Tom? That was the tough one. The tough one was this one. The tough one to get was the federal government. But you got that. And you really had it a couple of months ago, but you have it today officially. So from the beginning, the Trump administration has delivered for our great farmers. We love our farmers. Under the previous administration, net farm income plummeted by 20%, and under my administration, net farm income has increased by over 50%. And we've secured the historic trade deals, including the new trade deal with China. They're going to buy $50 billion worth of your product. I don't know if you're going to be able to make it. The most they ever bought, remember, the most they ever bought was $16 billion. Now they're going to buy $50 billion. You know, they agreed to 20. And on closing, I was saying aloud, I said, where are you with the farmers? So we're at $20 billion. That's more than they ever bought. The most was $16 billion 2 years ago. So I got them up to 20. I said, make it 50. They said, what? I said, make it 50. You got 1.5 billion people, 50 is peanuts. Make it 50 billion. Would you do me a favor, make it 50 billion? They agreed to do it. It wasn't that easy, but they agreed to do it. See that beautiful tractor over there? The beautiful tractor. I said, you got to get bigger tractors, that's all. They look like nice big tractors. That's a big tractor right back there. You got to get bigger tractors. You got to buy a little more land. So Larry, instead of selling your land, buy some more, okay? You know, buy a little more land. But no, they're going to increase it. So think of it. If they go to 40 to 50 billion dollars, you're talking about a whole different industry. Plus, I got Japan for $40 billion. You saw that. We signed that deal 4 months ago. South Korea now is a big buyer. Signed that deal. And the big one is the USMCA. That's Mexico and Canada. And now you're going to be treated with respect. You were treated pretty badly. You had tremendous tariffs going in. As example, on dairy products, you had a 287% tariff going into Canada. but we took care of it. We virtually eliminated all of the taxes and all of the problems that the farmers were having, and I'm very proud to do it. Very special people. And when I was negotiating the farm deal, I told this to Kevin. You know, some people complain, not the farmer. They were going up, fake news, CNN was putting microphones in your face and saying, isn't this terrible? Because China, you know, they're great negotiators, they pulled way back. And the farmers, I tell you, I didn't hear a negative. They said, look, it's very tough, but somebody had to do this. This has been going on for 17, 18 years, really much longer than that, but it's been going on at least for 18 years. The farmer's been hurt, somebody had to do it. The president's fighting for us, and we're going through a rough patch. But what I did is I solved the patch by getting, we got you $16 billion, and we got you $12 billion from the year before. We took it out of the tariffs that we imposed. People don't say it. They never like to say it, the fake news. But you were hurt the first year by $12 billion. Well, we were taking in tens of billions of dollars in tariff. We didn't get 10 cents forever from China. Now they're paying us 25% on $250 billion, and then more after that. So what I did is I took out the $12 billion. We gave it to the farmer. Then I took out the next year. I said to Sonny Perdue, great Secretary of Agriculture, I said, Sonny, how much this year? 16. I said, 16 billion. They stopped buying. I gave you 16 billion out of the tariffs. We had billions and billions left over. And China came and they signed a wonderful agreement. So we're very happy about it. But the farmers didn't even want this money. The farmers said to me, we had 36 farmers in the White House, and they said very simply, we don't want this money. We just want a level playing field. I got you better than a level playing field, okay? Better. And one of the biggest things I did, I said, I'm going to get killed on this one. We terminated the Waters of the United States rule, which is basically they were taking your property away from you. Think of that. They called it the Clean Waters of the United States. I said, how do you sign that? How do you do that? But other than the title, it was a disaster for builders and farmers and everybody. And I remember when I signed it, I had a lot of people, a lot of farmers and construction workers and a lot of people behind me. And these are people that didn't cry when they were babies. They never cried in their life, and they were crying. A lot of them were crying because I gave them their land back. I gave them their rights back. They took away their rights. If you had a puddle in the middle of your farm, they said it was a lake, it was a river, it was they virtually said it was an ocean, right? You had no right. You couldn't get anywhere near it. It was crazy. So we gave it back. Federal bureaucrats will no longer micromanage every ditch, stock tag, puddle, and pond on your land. From now on, it's your land. It's not their land. You're going to do what you want. Terrible. It was a terrible. Other than the title, it was a terrible thing. Since I took office, the Department of Agriculture committed investing over $6.1 billion to rebuild. Think of that, $6.1 billion to rebuild and improve the rural water infrastructure. And last month, I took decisive action to slash regulatory approval times for critical infrastructure, including water projects. We have many water projects going on right now that would have never happened under the previous administration, or if Crooked Hillary won, which fortunately she did. Our proposal will limit the process to 2 years. Already my administration is making every effort to finish the review process for the Friant-Kern Canal in less than 1 year. Less than 1 year. We're going to have it done in less than a year. Right, David? And just to finish up, America is a nation built by farmers who work hard to provide their families, support their neighbors, and draw out God's abundance from the earth. You pour out your sweat and soul. You pour out your heart. You really do. You're incredible people. You work so hard, and you're smart as hell. Because to make it in your business, you have to be smart. Your communities, your country, we appreciate it so much. And that's why I'm here today, and why I will always keep fighting for the American farmer and rancher. The people in this room are going to fight for you, and we're going to win. And we're going to get you your water and put a lot of pressure on your governor. And frankly, if he doesn't do it, you're going to get a new governor, because who could... conceivably think of somebody that would do. So I just leave by saying, God bless the American farmer. God bless America. Thank you. Thank you.
Been listening to remarks from President Trump as he just finished up. We estimated about
40 minutes.
40 minutes. He began with proud to be an American and ends with a little Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want, but telling the crowd, made up of farmers, ranchers, and many people in the agriculture industry, that he was going to fight hard and do what he can to deliver more water to the Central Valley.
That's right. It has been quite the speech as you see some of the other dignitaries walking off the stage as well. We saw it begin with local Congressman and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy coming up to introduce the President of the United States, saying it is great to have a president who keeps his promises. He also went on to say he's proud to be an American. Of course, they played the song. President Trump walked out and started, of course, if you caught the very beginning, he started this entire thing by remembering those two Porterville firefighters who just died last night in that fire at the public library. As we know, one of those firefighters from Kern County originally and living in Bakersfield. But then he moved on into his speech saying what they're doing to your state is a disgrace, and he wants to make a difference. He wants to make a difference. He wants to bring water.
That's right. And he said, one of the things he said, we're determined to solve your problem. Now that they're rationing water, of course, there's been a lot of talk about the 50 gallons issue. He kind of touched on that. And the fact that millions of gallons of water end up pouring out into the Pacific Ocean. That is something that we have talked about for years upon years. And he not only Kevin McCarthy, but also Representative Devin Nunes. He mentioned Devin during this thing. Also David Valadao, who once again is running for the seat that he lost. Congressman Tom McClintock, 4th District, and Secretary of the Interior David Bernhardt. Just some of the dignitaries on hand that he started out mentioning. And before we get back into the water issue, one thing he said with all of these political figures on hand, he also alluded to the fact that he felt that California could pick up 7 seats.
Yes.
In the legislature in California.
Yep, trying to make that shift here. When he was talking about the water, something that was interesting to me back in October of 2018, he mentioned the story that he told today on stage, that he was having a discussion saying he saw all of these incredible fields in California as he was talking about this with Nunes, saying there's all of these beautiful, incredible fields, but they are dry as a bone, calling it a disgrace. He had mentioned that previously, obviously, he brought that back up again today during his speech, and then calling Devin Nunes a hero, saying that he's a hero who started this ball rolling, having that first conversation then, and mentioning it again today, saying he wants to turn those dry as a bone lands back into green, beautiful lands.
You know, and it's ironic that you mentioned that, because the way he described it, the way many of us see it, you have the patch of green next to the patch of brown, and then green and brown all the way up and down the Central Valley. And he also said it should be obvious to everyone that the problem is there, and that he called back to 2018 when he first began to address the challenges that the West Coast has when it comes to the water, that he put together the team basically headed up by Secretary of the Interior David Barnhart, and said that they want to use real-time monitoring. They want to use real-time monitoring, use new technology, more efficient use of the water, so it simply won't be wasted. And he called this just the beginning.
Right. Yes, he did. He talked about the fact that there is going to be a lot of water, and that we're going to be able to do things that you never thought possible. Those were words out of the president's mouth. And then, as you mentioned, when Bernhardt got up to speak, he talked about that real-time technology that they want to implement. They said they want to stop wasting water. They said that they want to stop sending it out to the Pacific Ocean, saying that they want to get that water and use it here in the Central Valley, where farmers are so desperate for it. The president saying we've been needlessly flushing beautiful, clean water into the Pacific Ocean. Right. He also said that these natural droughts were turned into man-made catastrophes.
Exactly, and overbearing regulations. He really stressed that, as far as state regulations go, that have not been updated, have turned these natural droughts, as you mentioned, into man-made catastrophes. To confront the problem, he said he ordered updates to opinions when it comes to determining water allocation, calling many of the opinions that we still follow in the state, calling them outdated. Many experts in the ag industry have also gone along that line, and basically how much he wants these new ideas and new ways of looking at it, so that we can get a real-time, a more current idea of exactly how much water is out there and available to everyone, not only in California, but also in the western states.
That's right. And we do have environmentalists who have been against the president opening up some of these regulations, saying that this is going to hurt the salmon, the steelhead, and eventually the killer whale, who depend on those animals to feed themselves. But he said that he wants to ensure that the environment is protected, said that it's going to be a massive amount of water, and make sure that the farmers are getting the water that they are paying for. As we've mentioned throughout this broadcast, that's been something that farmers have been talking about. They're still paying for the water, but they're not receiving it in our drought years. They've been struggling to receive all of the water that they need, and that they're spending their money on to receive.
You know, through all this turmoil too, new ideas and new ways of doing things have popped up. You also heard, if you were watching the entire, Jenny Holterman, past chair of the Young Farmers and Ranchers, an almond farmer, and she was talking about her family, the difficulties that they've gone through. Today use 33% less water than the previous generations of farmers by using new technology, she said, to keep the water flowing to farms, her farm, not only her farm, but other farms throughout the state. And of Matt Fisher, another person who came to the podium, a citrus farmer with chairman of the California Citrus Mutual. And among his comments today, he talked about how they need to update biological opinions when it comes to our water, that he says will save thousands of acres that have been either left idle or left to die.
Yeah, he actually said by the president doing this, that this has brought significant relief not only to his family, but to other farmers in the area, saying, as you mentioned, saving thousands of acres of citrus from dying. So when you think about that on a scale of how much citrus California and Florida give out to not just here and across the nation, but to other countries too, it's a big impact that it could have. So he's thanking them. Larry Starr also saying that water is everything for us, comparing it to a bloodline, but saying that he and his family considered selling their farm prior to President Donald Trump's election. He said that they pay for water that they don't get, and that was a struggle, and they genuinely considered selling it. But as soon as the president was elected, they decided to keep the farm. He jokingly said his dad said, "Don't even talk about selling the farm." And he thanked the president, saying that these new rules rules that are implemented are because of President Trump, and he asked him to keep fighting for us, meaning farmers, of course.
He was, of course, he had one of the more dynamic moments up at the podium, but he walked away. It was President Trump walking up saying, you ought to think about running for office. You ought to think about politics.
They shared a great moment, too, when he talked about the fact that the president was elected and gave him a little turn. The president gave him a little, that's right, we did it. So
we are currently working to get some pictures from outside right now. We know that the president has left the building. There was a little more sort of a meet and greet backstage as he was exiting the building to get back into that motorcade and head back down to the south end of the airport. We're trying to get a picture right now from our cameras positioned down near Air Force One. We're about maybe a quarter of a mile.
Yes, we're close. That's for
very
sure.
Close as we can be to Air Force One to try and get pictures of the president as he leaves. But one of the things that he said in closing out his speech, and in typical President Trump fashion, he was going in several directions at one time. But one of the things at the very end, speaking directly to the people that were in attendance, the one impacted by what he signed there, you saw at the end, he said, quote, "You work so hard and are as smart as hell," I believe were his exact words. "Always keep fighting," he said. "We'll keep fighting for the farmer and the rancher. We're going to get you your water." He wants to put the pressure on the governor. Now, whether we have not seen, we've been monitoring the governor's Twitter and his social media accounts. He has not commented yet, or his office has not commented yet on the president's remarks. So we are waiting for that.
All right. And we do know that our reporter, 23 ABC's Austin Westfall, who was inside during those remarks, is standing by for us right now. Austin, it looks like people are starting to clear out. What's going on in there at this moment?
Yeah, people giving a round of applause to President Trump and Kevin McCarthy as they exited the stage. I'm here now with Assemblyman Vince Vaughn, who represents the 34th District. Assemblyman, I just wanted to get your reaction to the words that were spoken on stage a moment ago.
Well, the president said he was going to deliver more water to the Central Valley, and by signing the documents today, allows the Central Valley to get more water from the federal water projects. So extremely important. Our farmers need it. Our community needs it. People don't realize when you turn the water, when you open the faucet, water comes out, and that comes from up north. And so we need all that water to be pumped down through the Delta to the Central Valley. So an extremely important document signed today.
Yeah, we heard some complaints from some people in the ag industry today. What are some complaints that you've heard from your constituents about this issue?
Well, water is our lifeblood. You cannot grow food, you cannot have a healthy economy in the Central Valley and throughout the state of California without a safe, stable water supply. And so what the president has done today is a step in the right direction. Now we need the governor of California to also follow suit and run the state water project in compliance with the federal government. That way we can even get more water. The governor, from my understanding, is threatening to sue the federal government based on what's happening today, but we need the California to follow suit and follow President Trump's lead.
Yeah, and so what's next? How are we going to talk to the state? How are we going to talk the state into following suit?
Well, a lot of conversations are occurring right now. The documents and the science that was developed to get the documents signed today, the state has been involved every step of the way. So I believe that the governor should follow the lead of the federal government, allow the state water project to also pump more water and move water not only to the Central Valley, but to Los Angeles and Southern California.
Appreciate your time, Assemblyman Vaughn. Thank you for joining us. Well, everything's wrapping up here. People are leaving the hangar at this moment. There's still some loud music being shown, being listened to. People are taking pictures up on the stage. We're going to bring you more coverage coming up on 23 ABC News at 5, 6, and 7, and later on in our evening newscast at 11 o'clock. But for now, I'm going to sign off from here at Meadows Field Airport. Austin Westfall, 23 ABC, connecting you.
Right, Austin, thanks for that. And of course, as you just heard there, he was talking to Assemblyman Vince Vaughn saying that, we need a safe, stable water supply, saying that this is a step in the right direction, and of course, calling on Governor Gavin Newsom to follow suit.
You are looking at live pictures now inside Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Phoenix, where they are awaiting the president. Do you think they know that he's still here?
I hope so.
I think they do. Because we were talking about how many people, they showed up so early in order to get in and get a good spot. We don't know if they were broadcasting the president here on screens there inside that. But we have learned that the president isn't expected to make remarks there until 7 o'clock local time, which is an hour ahead of us. So that is 2 hours, from
away.
now.
Yep, but you can tell, just like here, people are eager and they want to get in place. They want to get to the right spot to make sure that they have the chance to hear the president. And they are definitely in place, just as we saw this morning, just about 1,000 people waiting for the president to arrive here in Bakersfield. That's the same scene right now in Phoenix. And we are monitoring Air Force One as we continue to wait for the president to make it over to the aircraft, of course, to head on over to Phoenix. This is the split screen here showing you currently in Bakersfield right now at the airport, and along with Phoenix, who are anxiously awaiting the president's arrival.
All right, and you just saw moments ago the president signing that legislation to try and get more water.
And they're on the move, it looks like,
the Central Valley. That's right. And man, you know what? When he moves quickly.
He does, and we'll have to see if they are readjusting or taking off. They very well could be leaving, getting out of the area very quickly. Finishing up this one, as we mentioned, he does have the other stop in Phoenix tonight before he's expected to stay back in Las Vegas overnight before he has an event tomorrow. But again, Air Force One on the ground here in Kern County today. The President of the United States, along with Congressman Kevin McCarthy, here in Bakersfield. For the first time, we haven't had a president here since 2012. A big moment here today in Bakersfield.
I had a text just a short while ago saying, why is the president continuing to go back to Las Vegas, where he ends his night? And what I was able to find was, and I don't know if this is not confirmed, but a fun fact out there if you'd like, the president likes to sleep in his own bed.
I don't blame him.
He likes to sleep in his own bed, and we're being told that if he can't, he's on the West Coast, he goes to, where else? In Las Vegas, Trump Hotel.
Trump, of course, yes.
Trump Hotel, where he stays there.
And as we're turning our cameras, we are keeping an eye on the president and his departure. Our cameras are getting in place to see if we can get a better shot of that as the president leaves Kern County. Again, this is a look right now at Phoenix. Phoenix is his next stop today. We know he came from Palm Springs this morning to Bakersfield and then now headed to Phoenix before back to Las Vegas tonight. We have heard that the president is in fact already on Air Force One. As we mentioned, as soon as it wrapped up, he was back in and on to the next place as our cameras are moving at this moment to try to get a better shot of Air Force One leaving Kern County.
And I'm trying to see, just like I don't know if we can take a full shot of our camera on the ground there. Yeah, just
the video.
Just the ground.
Oh, it looks like our photographer. Sorry, we're seeing this off to the side on another image here, but. Again, if you missed any portion of that speech, about 40 minutes long with the president talking about the water, the desperation from farmers here, had several local farmers also speaking out today. But this was a follow-up to what the president has been saying since he was a presidential candidate fighting for the Republican nomination back in 2016, saying he wanted to open up the waterways for farmers, wanted to make sure that they had access to it. Many of the farmers who spoke today saying that they are dependent on this technology, getting together, updating, and moving forward. One almond farmer, Jenny Holterman, saying that their family has been able to use 33% less water, less energy to create their almonds and keep that crop going. They want the state to continue with them and start making those changes. And she's based out of Wasco. For those almonds. As we now take you to our airport view again,
and there
is Air Force One on the way out. And that's almost, I didn't get an exact landing time for him here earlier, but I would say just over an hour as I'm checking to see what time he officially landed. But
it was just about 2:15. 2:20 in that area. So the president on the ground for what is that, an hour and 40 minutes?
Yes. So
just over an hour and a half. The president coming here, signing that legislation to try to put a handle on overbearing regulations that he said have not been updated in years and turned what he called natural droughts into man-made catastrophes. He has ordered updates to opinions to determine proper water allocation throughout the state of California. And basically how much is available to everyone. Now the interesting thing is going to be to see what state legislators and the governor do in response to this new federal legislation.
We do want to thank you for joining us here for this special coverage of President Trump's visit. We are going to continue this from all angles, supporters, protesters, his speech and responses. We're hearing from our local politicians as well as potentially the governor if he responds to his speech right here and online. We hope to see you back here for 23 ABC News at 5 with a wrap up on the president's visit.
And just a reminder, you can see the president's speech entirely. It is posted to our social media platforms and our website, turnto23.com. You have been watching a special edition of 23 ABC News with the president's visit in Bakersfield. Don't forget, you can, of course, follow up in just about an hour for 23 ABC News at 5 and 6 and the Now at 7 o'clock.
$450. The savings that we get through AAA insurance enables us to do more of what we love. More gas in our car for driving up north to go camp. You do s'mores. You can't lose with s'mores. Yeah.
To find out how much you could save by switching to AAA insurance, call 877-729-0997 for your free auto insurance quote today. AAA Insurance, helping you save more.
Expect dry conditions to continue through Thursday. Your full forecast at 5.
You're about to start shooting Jurassic World. And this is the end?
I'm not allowed to say anything, but I'll tell you everything.
Today on Ellen, Chris Pratt.
What body part are you most proud of?
My skull.
Plus, this couple fighting for a cure for ALS.
What's happened since you've been on the show?
We've been advocating like crazy.
Being able to spread awareness and keep spreading our word, that